Hello and welcome to the Gallagher and HowNow fireside chat. I'm David Cartwright Forbes. I lead the specialist markets team at Gallagher.
Hi there, thanks for having me. I am Pauline, Head of People at HowNow, which is a learning and skills integrated platform.
Right, let's start with a little bit of agenda setting. There's no scripts, no teleprompters whatsoever. We're going to keep this really relaxed and informal, but we are going to try and stay on track. So we'll talk a little bit about the specialist markets team, what we do and how we support clients such as Pauline and HowNow. We'll get a little bit of a window into your world, Pauline, and what it's like to be head of people for a business. And then we're going to talk about some of the solutions that can help address well-being for our people. So to put some context to that, let me start by talking a little bit about the specialist markets team. People are the biggest contributor to business growth, and that business growth happens fastest when people are able to operate at their best and can thrive. We support small businesses to address some of the challenges around rapid growth and around the fierce war that exists for talent. And we help companies to navigate that by making sure their people strategy and their benefits align to their ambition. So, Pauline, for those listeners who don't know anything about HowNow, hit us with the elevator pitch.
Thanks, Dave. So the elevator pitch for HowNow is the one place for learning and skills in an organisation. Now, what does that mean is that historically, learning has always been content pushed and it's been a one-size-fits-all. But HowNow uses AI to make sure that we can see what skills people have today, what they need in the future, and how to close those skills gaps to make the biggest business impact for the individual, but also the business and how you track that as well. We also integrate with all the ecosystem of your learning so that we are looking at Slack, Teams, Google Docs, etc. So people don't have that interruption when they're trying to learn something new. It's there at their fingertips. So that's my elevator pitch. I'm not a salesperson, but check us out.
Loads for us to get stuck into there. If we take it right back to the start, you're talking about the challenge of recruitment. So you've got a whole bunch of talented people who've chosen to join HowNow. They're part of the mission. What is it you think made them join the business?
I think what's really important is articulating the mission of the company. And our company is very mission-led. What we're trying to do is close down skill shortage across the world, really. So how do you amplify that? So making sure that your brand is really strong. So not only what you offer in terms of benefits, etc., and compensation, but what do you offer as a company? What is it like to work at HowNow? And making sure that the culture of what HowNow is on your website. You're talking about it on LinkedIn. You're talking about it on social media. I think that's really great to attract people into the company, and also advocacy. So people that work there, what are they saying on Glassdoor? What are they saying on LinkedIn? And I think all of that comes together for your kind of attraction strategy. And we've worked really hard on our branding. So we have a candidate hub, which is really how transparent we are as an organisation. So it really encapsulates all of our values by saying, this is who we are. And if you like who we are, then you're going to work here and you're going to be great working here. But this is who we're not. And I think it's really important to say at that early stage what you're not and what you can't offer, especially as a startup scale up, because we can't offer something like Google offers, for example, because we're not that big. So just be transparent with what you can offer and what those perks are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Transparency and communication. If you nail those two things, people are going to understand. You've set your stall out. As you said, this is what we're about. And I think it's as important to address what we're not about, because no business is going to be the best paying, have the best benefit. They're not going to get everything right. So it's about what's important to you, what do you stand for as a business? And then people know what they're signing up for.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree.
You mentioned just now about culture and the importance of culture. And there's that famous saying, isn't there, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's so important to get this right. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the type of culture that you are building at HowNow and how you're going about that.
Yeah, of course. And I think culture is built by everyone. And I think it's not just about the people team, but the main thing about culture is actually how we do things here. That's the crux of it. When you can explain how we do things here and why we do things the way we are, that's how you can translate culture. So what we're trying to build is a high-performing culture that feeds innovation. So creating psychological safety, making sure people have a safe space where they can think, where they can get things wrong, fail fast, but learn from their mistakes, where they're growing, where they're building skills, and where it's transparent on where they can get to in their career. So this is how we do performance management. This is how we do bonuses. This is how we do compensation. And if people have those bricks of how we do things, everyone feeds into that culture. So that's what we're trying to build, is this high performing culture, but where everyone feels safe and they naturally perform high because they know the boundaries.
Yeah, that psychological safety piece, that almost permission culture. And you talked about failing and failing fast. I think it's important to reframe that failing is about learning. And as long as you capture those learning opportunities and people feel comfortable that they can be in an environment where it's okay to fail, where you can capture that learning, that's absolute gold. Building and maintaining a culture can be difficult, right? I'm sure you've found that, and no doubt some of the people leaders in your business have. What are some of the key challenges that you found around maintaining that culture?
I think as you grow, HowNow started with 4 or 5 people and we've grown now to 80, 85 people. So there's different people coming in, different leaders coming in who lead in different ways. So it's really hard to over communicate. So as you grow, it becomes even harder to communicate every single thing that you would have when you're smaller. But what we try to do is train our leadership team to make sure that the importance of communicating, and not just communicating, but over communicating. This is how we lead at HowNow. It's not how you would have led at a different organization. This is how HowNow leads. This is the way we coach, we mentor, we support, because we believe appreciation and support reaps high performance, but in a safe environment where people feel not burnt out.
I have to say that the culture that you are creating at HowNow, it sounds fantastic. And people are walking into the business knowing what they're signing up for and then will feel that culture as their working life goes on. You talked a little bit about the high performing teams that you're creating and how you're going about doing that. And you also highlighted burnout as being one of those potential risks. How do you find the trade-off between encouraging people to be a high performing team with the risk of people burning out?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this comes from having really good leadership, leaders that can articulate the mission and what we're trying to achieve as a business, how that transitions down to a department level, how that transitions down to an individual OKR, KPI level. So what we've done at HowNow is we have business OKRs, department OKRs, and we have individual KPIs. So high performance is that you're doing your KPIs and you're all trying to achieve what the department needs you to achieve. So we're very metric driven. But what that causes is, obviously, as humans, there is an expectation that you have on yourself. So even though the leader might be saying, this is what you need to do, you don't need to do any more than this, or this is how we can support you, an individual may feel that they have to do double the amount. And I think that is the blind spot for organizations, and where most HR professionals wouldn't know who's burning out unless it's been indicated. And I think that's where benefits come in, where we've got an EAP service, where we have ULife, for example, where they can have Wellbeing, where they can get out and do mindfulness, or they can go out and do their step counts, and they can have challenges together. So burnout, we try and, number one, create a psychological safe space where people can come and tell us, is this getting too much? And we have those one-on-one conversations. We train our management to spot those. What are the signs of burnout? But number two, we have benefits that support them. But if they don't feel comfortable coming to management or the people team to say, this is how I'm feeling, there is other things or other places they can go to, get mindfulness or to get out and do a bit of exercise, etc. So that is how we're treating it.
Love that. I love how you see the important part that benefits have to play and that you use them as a tool to help support well-being. The challenge very often with people that I speak to is that you can have the best benefits program in the world. You can have all the tools, all the support in place for people, but unless they know about it, unless they engage with it, it's kind of a waste of spend. You're not getting that ROI. How do you make sure the benefits are well communicated, that they're understood in the people?
Yeah, I think it's benefits, but anything that you're rolling out is that you have to treat it like a marketing strategy. So if you were marketing a product, how would you market that? So you've got to build it up. You've got to say this benefit's coming. You've got to talk about the value of that benefit. And if it's set for your people, so for example, we use ULife and we've only just launched that quite recently. And how I went about that is I didn't just say this is a benefit that's coming in place. I was like, right, we're going to have a challenge. We're going to have a challenge, people. We're going to do some steps. Who can beat me in my steps? Because at that time I was doing 12,000 steps a day. So I was like, can anyone beat me? And then we got everyone on ULife and we set it up so that when everyone went on there, that we were already in a game. And then we do like Yuduku challenges and we all talk about it in the office. And I think it's bringing it to life. So number one, how now we share the information, which is like our intranet. So we share the information on that. We share it on Slack. We over communicate it, but we don't just communicate it and then let it lie. We resurface it. We say, has anyone seen this great feature, for example, on ULife or on our EIP service that you can get this? And we also talk to people. So we say, how are you feeling at the moment, through employee surveys or through just our kind of cultural committee to say, what are you facing at the moment? And if they say something about financial wellness, then we talk about the benefits that would support that with them.
I love that approach of treating it like having a marketing strategy. It's a really interesting way of doing it, because let's face it, right, we're bombarded with information all the time. And so how you cut through that and make sure that the stuff lands well and that people are engaged with it, nothing like a bit of competition as well to get people going. We may revisit that later on. Sounds like you're getting a lot of this stuff right with your strategy and your communication. And I think one of the things that we hear from a lot of people managers is that they have the best intentions, right? They want to put all of these support mechanisms in place. They want to broaden the benefits offering to really take care of their people. But sometimes there can be a little bit of resistance. So the intent is there, but the execution doesn't always follow. And very often this is about getting the internal sign-off. So I'd love to hear about how some of the listeners could approach this with their executive to get the sign off and the weight behind the initiatives.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a top tip of the fireside chat. So how I always approach this with anything, benefits or otherwise, is I ask 3 questions, or when I'm going in for a proposal, I look at 3 things. Why now? Why do you need this benefit? What is the data telling you? So is it that you've had high attrition? Is it that people are being off sick? We've got a lot of long-term sickness, etc. So why now? And collect that data. Why do you need this benefit, this solution, this platform? What's the solution that you're proposing? So you need to explain, why is it that solution and not this other solution? Why is this one the better? So do your benchmarking around it, why this is the solution that will work for your organization. And then why not? Think of the why not. So your executive are going to come to you and say, we can't afford it. We don't need it. What is working now that if you didn't have this solution, what would be the price of inaction? So if you don't buy this solution, what is the price of inaction? And if you can explain that in your deck or to your presentation to your exec, they'll buy it. Those are the 3 questions.
I love that. And always starting with why. Such a powerful way. I love that approach. I'm calling that the Taylor's top tips, and I may actually steal those. I think they're brilliant. So let's play this out a little bit. You've got your idea, you've done your research, you know the why, all important, and you've delivered this to the exec team who've gone, right, I buy into this, brilliant. Now what? Now you're down to the delivery, right? And we know that you're a barely small and stretched team. What more can benefit consultants like us do to support you? What more can the provider partners that run your benefits, what can they do to help support you and make sure all of this is a success and you're hitting your objectives?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of things, David. The number one thing that I find is having a bit of empathy. And I know you guys especially do, and that's why we've worked with you for such a long time, but understanding that the world of a people person isn't just benefits, that we have wider challenges, and actually talking to me about what those challenges are. Because I think most people think that people professionals know the answers to everything, and I don't. And it does, sometimes keep me up at night to think I need to know that answer. Whereas I know that with specialist markets, for example, that I can tap into you and say, right, I've got an office in Mumbai and we need this benefit, or we need something do you know someone that can help me? And 99% of the time that you come back and say, well, we don't do it, but I know someone who does. Like, you have that network, which I find is really important. So the first one is empathy. The second one is just, business understanding. Like, what is the industry that I work in, and helping me know what the best packages are for attracting talent and retaining talent. Because even though I have an idea, you have a better idea because that's what you do. So really working as a real business partner is what I love about working with you guys, but also what I would expect from any provider that I'm working with.
Yeah, it's our job. I mean, our job is not to just renew your benefits or just help you communicate them. It is that people strategy partner, understanding you as a person, understanding your business, understanding the market, and making sure that we're on the same side of the table as you. And as you said, connecting you with the right people, support services, whether that's in our business or whether that's outside of our business, to make sure you've got everything that you need. Pauline, you talked about the growth that you're experiencing at HowNow, 85 people and growing. I've been in the benefits industry for a long time. It's fair to say it's pretty static. You don't get a lot of change or innovation, but change is coming. And with the workforce moving from Gen Z, soon to be Gen Alpha, I'd love to hear about how you are going to modernize your people strategy to account for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's not just looking at Gen Z and Gen Alpha. It's the fact that you have 4 generations in one company. So some will still expect the traditional benefits. And of course, with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, what they want is personalization. That's what they want. When you're looking at Gen Alpha now, homework is gamified. It's on an app. My daughter does her homework on an app. So when they're coming into the workspace, that's what they expect. So I think you have to think about it now. How are you going to future-proof your organization to attract them and also retain them, so they understand, number one, what benefits or even technology they're using, because they're using technology more than I ever used when I was younger, but also make it personalized to them, not just for everyone. That's the key.
Awesome conversation with you, Pauline. As always, and we've gone into an awful lot of stuff, Ed, I think will resonate with people listening into this, and you've given some great tips. Let's end with another one. What is Pauline's big tip for any people leaders out there, potentially those that have limited resource? What's the one thing that you would say as a piece of advice?
Yeah, a piece of advice that someone gave me that I use today. I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you a lucky dip. First one is always look at the outcome. When you're in a people team, you are asked to do many things. Create a skills framework because people want that. Get these new benefits. Create a performance framework. Why? We go back to the why, David. We go back to the why. Saying to those leaders, C-suite, why do we need this and why do we need this now? What is the outcome that we're trying to get towards? That will then say, is that the root cause? Like, what's the root cause? What are we trying to solutionize? I always think about the outcome. So that's the first tip. The second tip is really important, especially if you're in a small team. And that is, don't try and do everything at once. Do one thing really well. Do one thing really well, launch a benefit really well, make sure that it's landed, and then listen to people's feedback and then do the next thing. I think what we tend to do is try and do lots of different things. Don't do that. Do one thing really well and then move on to the next.
Amen to that. And I think back to early stages of my career and someone I worked with who was very influential for me. That was his one piece of advice. He used to say, dig one hole, just do one thing and do it exceptionally well.
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot today about culture and the importance of having good culture within a team. Here's the reality, right? The workplace has changed a lot, certainly since you and I started. And a lot of teams now are hybrid or remote. And you don't have everybody sat in the office next to each other like it used to be when you and I first started work. How do you overcome that? Right? How do you make sure that the culture is so vital to the success of your business? How do you make sure that culture continues across a hybrid team? How do you bring people?
I think there's 2 sides to this. And I think it comes back to what I said previously about what culture is. And it's the how we do things here. And I think if you communicate and translate that clearly to everyone, and we can talk about different examples, then that is what builds the culture. So for example, one of the things that we do is we have a lot of events together. So we have monthly know-hows where people share their knowledge with each other. So we get together remotely, so on Zoom, to talk about like what someone's learned, and that could be in work or externally from work. We have all hands every 6 weeks where we give people updates. But we also have things like U-Life, which is the gamification, where we do step count challenges, and we do other things like community days, and we celebrate world days all together. So I think it's, yes, there is a challenge that when you're not in the office, that can be quite isolating for people as well, not having an office to go to. But it's creating that community together and making it really focused. Like, what are you trying to achieve? You're trying to bring people in together. And there are different ways that you can do that can be really successful.
Pauline, thank you for your time today. It's been a really good opportunity to get into some of the conversations that normally happen behind closed doors. We've touched on some of the big burning issues in business, recruitment, and the challenges of getting the right people. When you bring talent into your business, how do you get them to stay, the importance of culture, and the risks of burnout. Some really, really big business issues. And you've given helpful insight, which I'm truly grateful for. It's been great to have you along, share your views with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.